That's fine. Alright. Part 87, which is technically 88 because of Pentakill, I guess. Actually, no, it's like 85, I don't know. Because the Scion thing update was also like a non-episode. Either way, Callista, the Spear of Vengeance. Either way, this is going to be like differently numbered. I already know approximately which episode was the end of the Institute of War. Basically, Pentakill. Pentakill was just the switch, so this would start being the...
Welcome, lady.
God damn, bro. A year, man. A year he didn't fix his mic. Every video he's like louder or quieter. Fuck my life. But yeah, either way, this is going to be a completely differently marked episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the lore of League of Legends.
Different count.
In this episode, we're going to be focusing on an eternal spirit who possesses a cold-burning hatred for betrayers, deceivers, and traitors. Without further ado, I present to you the lore of Callista, the Spear of Vengeance.
Let's
Enjoy.
Go.
As an undying entity, Callista is a being that can be invoked by others to exact vengeance.
I hate this champ.
But at a great
Too much
cost.
damage.
The cost
Too
of
much
the
bouncing.
supplicant's soul is to be bound to Callista for all eternity. Here is one such tale. The sword wife stood amid the burnt-out ruin of her home. Everyone and everything that mattered to her was gone. She was filled with fathomless grief, but more so than that, she was filled with hate, and it was hate that now all but compelled her. She saw again the smile on his face as he gave the order. He was meant to be their protector, but he'd spat upon his vows. Hers was not the only family shattered by the Oathbreaker. She wanted nothing more than to plant her sword in his chest and watch the life drain from his eyes. But she knew she would never be able to get close enough to him, for he was guarded day and night, and she was just one warrior. She would never be able to fight her way through his battalion alone, and such a death would serve no purpose. She knew what she must do, and took a shuddering breath, for from this there was no turning back. A crude effigy of a man made from sticks and twine lay upon a fire-blackened dresser, its body wrapped in a scrap of cloth that had been torn from the betrayer by her now-dead husband. Alongside, she had also placed a hammer and 3 rusted nails.
Okay.
She gathered everything and moved to the threshold. The door itself was gone, smashed to splinters in the attack. Beyond it lay empty, darkened fields lit only by moonlight. Reaching up, the sword wife pressed the effigy to the hardwood lintel and began to speak. I invoke thee, Lady of Vengeance. Her voice was low, trembling with the depth of her fury. From beyond the veil, hear my plea. Come forth and let justice be done. The sword wife readied the hammer and the first of the 3 nails. I named my betrayer once, she said, speaking his name aloud.
I really hate characters like this, like stories like this. It's like, first of all, I can't even pay attention, like who is who, what is what, like whatever. Second of all, it's like, it's so, it's like, you know that Witcher story with the princess that turned into the creature that he has to rescue? And all of that complication around it. It's like, did this, did that, did this and that, and there was jealousy, and there was envy, and there was murder intent, and there was like hatred, and there was love, and it's like, like why? Like, oh my god, it's just so complicating shit. It's like, when you think about it, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's cool for the story, but also, what's with the 3 nails, the hammer, is there significance? I'm sure there's like a lore somewhere, like a folklore that this connects to, but goddamn, this is just so, I hate folklore overall. Like, a lot of them are just so dumb.
And as she did so, she placed the tip of the first nail to the chest of the stick figure, and with a single strike, hammered it in deep, pinning it to the hardwood door frame. She named him a second time, hammering the second nail alongside the first. Her gaze dropped and she jolted in shock. Ahead she saw a dark figure standing out in the moonlit field, 100 yards in the distance. It was utterly motionless, and breathing quicker, she returned her attention to the unfinished task before her. For the third time she named him, the name of the murderer of her husband and children, before hammering the final nail into the effigy. In an instant, an ancient spirit of vengeance stood before her, filling the doorway, and the sword wife staggered back, gasping involuntarily. The otherworldly being was clad in archaic armor, her flesh translucent and glowing with spectral light, black mist coiling around her like a living shroud. With a squeal of tortured and ancient metal, the spectral figure drew forth the blackened spear protruding from her breastplate, the ancient weapon that had once ended her own life. She threw it to the ground before the woman. No words were spoken, and there was no need. The sword wife knew what was being offered to her. Vengeance, and knew of the terrible cost it required. Her soul. The spirit watched on, her face impassive and her eyes burning with an unrelenting cold fury. The sword wife picked up the weapon, pledging herself to vengeance, and reversed the spear, aiming the tip inward towards the heart. For a moment she paused. Her husband would have pleaded with her to turn away from this path, begging her not to condemn her soul with this course of action. The woman's eyes narrowed as she thought of her husband lying dead, cut down by swords and axes. She thought again of her children sprawled upon the ground, and her resolve suddenly hardened like a cold stone in her heart. Her grip tightened, and she rammed the spear into her chest, driving it in deep. She dropped to her knees, her eyes widened. The only reaction was blood bubbling to her lips where she tried to speak.
That would be funny if the ghost, which I'm assuming is Callista, would start laughing at her. You fucking idiot! What are you doing, moron? No, use the spear to hunt, throw it, and it will go to whoever killed your husband, man. I didn't ask you to kill yourself, stupid.
As the last of the lifeblood ran from her body.
Oh wow, this whole time I wasn't even recording this. Oh no, we have to do it again? Nah. I'll just mark it down.
Appeared in her hand. An ethereal tether, little more than a whip, driving it in deep. She dropped to her knees, her eyes widened. The only reaction was blood bubbling to her lips where she tried to speak. As the last of the lifeblood ran from her body, the shade of the sword wife climbed to her feet. She looked down at her own corpse, lying dead in a glowing pool of blood upon the floor. The shade's expression hardened, and a ghostly sword appeared in her hand. An ethereal tether, little more than a wisp of light, now linked the newly formed shade to the avenging spirit she had summoned.
Okay.
Through their bond, the sword wife saw her differently, glimpsing the noble warrior she had been in life, tall and proud, her armor gleaming, her posture confident yet without arrogance. A born leader and a born soldier. This was a commander the sword wife would have willingly bled for. "Your cause is our cause," said Callista, the spear of vengeance. Her voice was grave cold. "We walk the path of vengeance as one now." And with that, the avenging spirit in the shade of the sword wife stepped into the darkness, disappearing into the night.
Yeah, but did she kill the husband's killer or not, man? That's so fucking annoying. Okay, that's Callista.